And welcome, everybody, to another episode of The Final Yard here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I am your host for today. It's Louis Sung. Eric Weideke is here. Michael Quirk is here playing a flu postgame show with us here. He apparently is feeling under the weather, but he has managed to get up out of bed to do what he's got to do with us here. Miami Dolphins have defeated the Chicago Bears, or you could say the referees defeated the Chicago Bears. You can decide for yourselves. But the final score, 35-32, a shootout of record-breaking proportions, literally, because Justin Fields is now the NFL record holder for most rushing yards by a quarterback in NFL history in a regular season game. But we will get into everything that happened today, all the good, all the bad. And believe me, folks, I've got words that I have to say today. But before we go into all of that, let me just go ahead and mention once again that our sponsor for this show, as always, is PrizePicks.com. It's the revolutionary fantasy platform where you pick up to 5 different players across professional sports leagues, whether that's the NFL, the NBA. You can't do the MLB anymore because the Houston Astros are now the World Series champions. But either way, it's up to you to decide what league you want to go into. If you want to just choose all NFL players, if you want to choose all NBA, if you want to choose a mixture of all, you can choose the over or the under on those individual players' fantasy projections, whether that's individual stats or classic fantasy point projections. They'll even send you freebie picks every once in a while, so you need to make sure you keep an eye on your inbox for those. With offers like that they're going to be giving you, it's hard to justify not signing up. Use the promo code 5, that's FIVE. It will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. There is no rollover. They're just going to give you $100 from the moment that you go ahead and sign up using our promo code. Whatever you put into it, they will match it up to $100. You don't have to bet through it. Just go ahead and put it in there, and they will give it to you instantly. Again, that's promo code 5. That's FIVE. Spell it out. FIVE. PrizePicks.com. Okay. So, gentlemen, what we just witnessed today, quite frankly, is a failure on the defense, for the most part, of epic proportions. And I don't know if Manny's still there. There we go. Hi, Jacob. Just as a Prize Picks board goes up, I see that Jacob Michelle has joined us at Finn's Dynasty on Instagram. By the way, everybody needs to go follow him there. That's where he makes his money, so to speak. So I'm just going to go ahead and summarize everything here. The Dolphins' defense was not good today. It was not. And I think it's fair to say that he was not. If you can give credit to Justin Fields if you want to, I believe he's earned the credit because he is a very, very athletic player. He has a lot of potential in him, and he can be very, very good if the Bears ever get their act together and put some pieces around him to make him successful. I fully believe that. But that doesn't negate the fact that the Bears was absolutely running all over this Dolphins defense pretty much from start to finish. It wasn't until the very last possible moment that they finally put it all together. And it's a very weird phenomenon that I'm feeling right now, guys, because once again, we run into a situation where the exact moment the Dolphins offense starts to fall to pieces, the defense steps it up. I don't understand. Why can both units just physically not be able to both be good at the same time? Why does it always have to be one or the other? I don't understand it. I don't know why they're doing it. And frankly, it's very frustrating for me as a fan because on the one hand, I'm really enjoying watching the offense do things on a everyday basis. That's great. But doggone it, man, just once can we win the game without giving me a heart attack? I feel like I was going to throw up all my lunch today.
Yeah, I mean it's disappointing that they weren't able to put the Bears away. They had multiple opportunities to do so today. I said on Twitter, and I'm gonna get to the defense. I said on Twitter I gave Tua an A- for today's performance just because he missed on the kill shots to Smythe and to Waddle. But he played a fantastic game otherwise. I'm not here to dunk on him. That would be silly. Really what I want to talk about is the biggest need on this team, which I do not think is in the secondary, believe it or not. It is the linebackers. The linebackers on this team are by far the weakest position unit. I think I'm ready to say it. Jerome Baker, he's just not taking good angles. Landon Roberts is extremely limited when he's not picking the right gap. He's just running right by guys. He can only run in a straight line towards runners. This team needs a linebacker that can spy a Justin Fields and do it well. Now, to give Justin Fields credit, he's got legit 4.4, 4.3 speed. He looked every bit of Michael Vick in Madden 04, I think it was, just running all over the field. But I saw criticism of Jalen Phillips today, and I thought that was just absolutely silly. I feel like Jalen Phillips was kind of all over the field today. Just on tracking down guys on end arounds. He was getting pressure occasionally. Who's behind him is my question. They need better play from the linebackers, plain and simple.
I would agree with that. Jake, you were saying this game was the trap game. Did you feel the trap start to snap on the Dolphins, just barely getting out of there?
I was thinking about that the whole game because I remember myself saying that. I'm like, the Dolphins are not good against rushing quarterbacks. And then Justin Fields has a field day, mind the pun, and sets, what is it, an NFL record?
Correct. An NFL regular season record for rushing yards in a game by a quarterback. 178 yards that he ran for against this Miami Dolphins defense. And listen, I said it on my show, Postgame Nation. The Dolphins still have a weakness to these running quarterbacks. It has not gone away. It has not. It is not a 2018 weakness. It is not a 2019 weakness. It is a now, today, still existing weakness of this defense. Like, the running quarterbacks kill them every single time. And I don't know what the answer is to fix it. I don't know if it's something that he can even be fixed. Is it possible that the game has just evolved to the point where you need a quarterback who can basically win with his legs just as much as his arm in order to truly be successful? I honestly don't know the answer to that question, because when you have multifaceted athletes like that playing quarterback, your whole offense basically becomes that much more dangerous. Justin Fields was the offense for the Chicago Bears today. He was the offense. It wasn't like he was part. No, he was. He wasn't a part of it. He was the offense. And the fact that the Miami Dolphins, listen, I am going to come out here and I'm going to say it. Tua deserves credit for what he's been able to accomplish today. And I'm going to say this up front right now. We'll get back to the defense in a minute, but I just need to say this before I get too riled up holding it in. I swear that Twitter waits around like vultures for Tua to make any even the smallest of mistakes. Like, he had been virtually perfect all game long. And then he underthrows Durham Smythe, which, by the way, Trent Green pointed out that Smythe actually turned up field before Tua threw the ball. So that might have something to do with it. And that was called a BS excuse by Twitter. That really, it's an excuse. Why is it an excuse? Because it was incomplete at a bad time. Yep. Okay, sure, whatever, fine. He made a mistake. You can even blame Tua if you want. That's the first mistake all game, and you're dumping on him. And then, by the way, that underthrown pass is deep to Jalen Waddle, the drive right after that. That wasn't lack of arm strength. That was just Tua making a bad read on the situation. He should have just launched it, and he was trying to add a touch pass to it to try to be accurate with it. He didn't need to do that. That was his mistake, yes, but we're pointing out the wrong mistake. So, but again, this is like all game long he'd been perfect, and all we can remember is that those last two drives. Are we just that miserable? The Buffalo Bills just lost to the New York Jets. Josh Allen threw 2 interceptions. He almost threw 3. Is anybody going to trash Josh Allen today?
No.
Are they going to say he sucks? No.
Justin Herbert barely beat the Falcons today, putting up just 20 points. No one's going to trash him either.
Like, we really need to start learning to appreciate what we have here. Not every quarterback is perfect, okay? Aaron Rodgers threw 3 interceptions today against the Detroit Lions, the very same Detroit Lions that the Miami Dolphins wrecked last week, okay? So unless you're going to tell me that Aaron Rodgers is no longer a very good quarterback, which you could make the argument for, but
I'm still an Aaron Rodgers fan, even though
right.
He threw those interceptions. It's just embedded in me. I love Aaron Rodgers, but yeah, it was a shame that what he did today on the goal line like that.
But and that's what I'm saying. But you see what my point is, though, right? It's right. Like Tua is under such a microscope for Miami Dolphins fans out there that it's like any little thing he does wrong is magnified to such an extent that it looks like it's a 10-foot tall giant. It's just a little microbe that you're seeing through a lens that makes it look a lot bigger than it actually is. Tua was phenomenal for the most part today. The only thing he did wrong was those last 2 drives. I just don't get into the whole let's criticize him and make it seem like everything else that he did today was invalidated.
Imagine if we lost, like Twitter would be up in shambles right now. Like,
yeah. And I see in comments already coming in. TJ every day. It's fair to criticize Tua's fourth quarter performance. Sure, fine. If you can criticize his fourth quarter performance, he made mistakes. He did make mistakes. But my issue with it is not that he made mistakes. It's more like, Tua was awful, and that this game is on him. What? Without Tua, this game is over before it begins. And that's my main point. It's like, even when he's awesome, he's still not good enough. He's still not good enough. I don't know what he has to do. He has to walk on water. He has to run for 300 yards and throw for 500 and win 60-0 in order for Tua to get some credit. And I'm not going to, I see a comment coming in. He also dropped a snap, but hey, listen, that was a low snap. Okay. Connor Williams did not do a good snap on that. I'm not going to give all that punishment to Tua. Like, other players are allowed to make mistakes if Tua does something that looks bad. Okay. It's not always Tua every time. So anyway, I've done my rant. Anybody else who wants to chime in after that, be my guest, but I just feel like I needed to get that out.
Yeah, Tua played a phenomenal first 3 quarters, and we can't take – sure, I do agree that it's fair to give him some criticism for the 2 missed throws in the fourth quarter, but it's not something that you can extrapolate into a bigger thing, because he has been phenomenal in fourth quarter. Just 2 misfires there. But like you said, Lewis, he kept the Dolphins in the game, kept the offense moving forward. The pass that drew the pass interference right before the Mostert 1-yard touchdown. Fantastic throw. I saw him go after all those penalties, other points in the game. So for me, it's not a big picture thing. It is fair to give him a little criticism, but he was unbelievable for 3 quarters. And luckily for the Dolphins, the Dolphins aren't going to be any semblance of storyline for on A block, B block, C block as usual on NFL shows, given that the Bills lost to the Jets. So you're going to have Mike Greenberg. Are the Jets for real? Are the Jets Super Bowl contenders? Next on whatever that godforsaken show is.
Which one? Is it First Take? Is it Undisputed? By the way, Skip Bayless coming out and saying that Tyreek Hill is doing the impossible, making Tua look good. I'm like, dude, your hatred of Tua Tagovailoa, is it because I'm not a college expert. Does Alabama play the Oklahoma Sooners, by the way?
Never.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out why why Skip would hate Tua so much, and I was wondering it's because he wrecked his college team. I don't know. I was looking for a reason.
How about the Raiders blew, I believe, a 20-0 lead?
Yep, Trevor Lawrence won.
And then, of
Trevor
course,
Lawrence beat him.
How about everyone coming into when Tua was getting some roses last week from people on Twitter as well as some media sources, and everyone started flooding saying, "Oh, it was against the Lions, the horrible Lions. It means nothing. It was the Lions." A couple days later, things like that happen. So, how about that?
All right. So this is the next thing that I'm going to talk about here. Dolphins running game still having some issues. Raheem Mostert, and let's give some credit to Jeff Wilson here. He did a pretty fantastic job having just come from San Francisco. And granted, I understand that it's pretty much still the same system overall, and he's very familiar with it from his time with McDaniel. But it's not easy for an offensive player to just come in the first week that you're with your new team and make the impact that he did. 9 carries, 51 yards, broke free for a 28-yard rush that was pretty important in the grand scheme of things. And, of course, he also caught 3 passes for 21 yards and a touchdown that ultimately made the difference in this game. Because, again, the defense was giving no margin for error, like none. Like, if you made a mistake, you were so afraid that the Bears were going to come back and beat you. So it's wild. I really am happy that Jeff Wilson is coming and making such a big impact, especially the upgrade from Chase Edmonds to Jeff Wilson today, at least, made a massive difference.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Chase and Jeff Wilson earned his money today. He within a game he has a better attitude, a better perspective of the game than Chase Edmonds ever did. Chase Edmonds has a couple drops and he feels bad for himself. And Jeff Wilson comes, he runs like Duke Johnson. He runs powerfully. He runs downfield and he gets these 10-yard runs. He comes out of them. He's hyping up the team. His attitude is there. He's everything you want in that trade. I'd say he definitely earned his money today. I don't know about Bradley Chubb. We could have a discussion there about if he earned his money today.
Bradley Chubb was around. Bradley Chubb was chasing people down, but it's the same discussion every single time. It feels like it's like, regardless of whether it's Bradley Chubb, whether it's Jalen Phillips, whether it's anybody you want to throw out there, they just can't seem to get there. And it's because there's always like an open running lane for the quarterback to escape. There's always somewhere for him to get out of a jam, and if not, then they miss a tackle. Bradley Chubb hit Justin Fields, and then he got away. Melvin Ingram basically had to body slam him into the ground just to finally get him down.
WWE on Justin Fields, and luckily that wasn't roughing the passer, because they could have easily called that roughing the passer when he body slammed Justin Fields for that sack.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I'm really glad that they didn't call roughing the passer. But you know what? Listen, hey, we get upset and we gripe over the fact that the Dolphins get screwed over by the referees all the doggone time. Every once in a while, it's nice to have it go the other direction.
To have Keon Crossman hug Chase Claypool. And I mean, that was pretty egregious. And on the other side, it was a questionable PI on that other side when the Dolphins had it. But yeah, I feel bad for the Bears, honestly. Like the Dolphins did get bailed out from that chase.
But you know what? But it's okay though. You know why? Because it happens against us so many times that it's like, hey, listen, every once in a while, it's nice to be able to get the benefit of the doubt. Okay?
Right.
Like the refs steal games from everybody. This time, for once, it's actually our benefit.
And before I have to leave early in about 6 minutes, I just want to say Keon Crossman did not have a good day. I was not impressed with him. He made a lot of mistakes. And he was my one guy. There was a lot of guys defensively, but Keon Crossman didn't really make any plays today. He could have given up the game-winning pass game-tying, game-winning pass interference call. He was getting beat all game long, and against these mid-lane receivers for the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, I do understand that the secondary probably wasn't as good as it should have been today. I thought Xavier Howard on that play, the Darnell Mooney touchdown, he just got beat out and out. But ultimately that comes down to the fact that these guys can't cover for 6, 7, 8 seconds in the pocket. And Chubb and Phillips, they're collapsing the pocket, but there's nobody there to scoop up Justin Fields. I mean, I saw Channing Tindall on the field a couple times. He didn't do much.
He was trying to spy Justin Fields.
He was attempting.
Justin Fields is such a crazy, ridiculous athlete that it's like, how do you spy someone like that? Justin Fields could potentially be Lamar Jackson. He really could. But he just needs the weapons around him.
Except at some points, he looks terrible. Like other teams have
Lamar Jackson has looked terrible throwing the ball sometimes.
Well, yeah, yes. But Lamar Jackson is objectively a better quarterback than Justin Fields is right now. Currently. But yeah, Justin Fields, I don't know how Josh Boyer didn't have an answer when multiple NFL teams had an answer for Justin Fields this season. So I don't really see an excuse on the Josh Boyer end for me.
I mean, as far as Justin Fields goes, I do think he has flipped the switch over the last 3 or 4 weeks. I think he has figured something out. But it is pretty inexcusable for Josh Boyer to just have no answers whatsoever. I mean, I don't think I saw Duke Riley on the field all day until he made he was the one linebacker to sufficiently contain Justin Fields all day on that last drive.
I wouldn't even call it contain. He was around him. He running.
He pushed him out of bounds. He pushed him out.
But that was after he had already gotten out of the pocket. Like he had to full on sprint just to even get close to him. So that was where I have the issue with it. It's like you have to understand, I feel like, that guys like Justin Fields and, yes, Lamar Jackson, they're saying that Lamar Jackson is in a different league than Justin Fields. Is he really, though? Like, as far as the actual potential, the level of talent, what can Justin Fields do? All we know for sure is that Lamar Jackson has proved more. That comes from the same. We have to give Justin Fields the same benefit of the doubt that we've been giving Tua. Bad coaching, number one. Lamar Jackson had John Harbaugh. We know who John Harbaugh is. We know what he can do as a coach. And we know what Lamar Jackson was given as far as weapons and ability to have a decent offense. Justin Fields has had what? What has Justin Fields had? Up until literally this week, that he was given Chase Claypool. Hooray, I guess. It's like, good for him. Like, put some weapons around this kid and let's see what he does. That's all I'm going to say about Justin Fields. The fact that he was able to do as much as he did, I'm not saying to give Josh Boyer a pass. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But don't say that Justin Fields is garbage and the only reason he played well today was because Josh Boyer just doesn't know what he's doing. I think that's being disrespectful to what Justin Fields can do as a quarterback.
Let's not forget that the Bears do have Armstrong, and to try and stop Justin Fields as well as Armstrong is quite the tall task. But yeah, I mean, it is a little concerning to see how much the Dolphins struggle against a running quarterback like Fields when you look around at who the Dolphins will have to go through in the postseason. When you look at Lamar Jackson, you look at Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes can run the ball well. You're going to have a lot of guys who, whether you bring the heat, as Boyer loves to do, or you drop back, the play breaks down. They can hurt you with their legs. And Tyndall, of course, the reason the Dolphins drafted him is he has all the physical tools. But the reason he hasn't made much of an impact isn't because the Dolphins are just flush with linebacker depth. It's because the game's still moving a little bit too fast for him, ironically enough. And you saw that a bit today. It wasn't a question of, hey, can he chase down a guy like Fields to go get him? Yes, but you have to put yourself in better positions than he was in today, and that ultimately falls on Boyer.
A lot of this stuff falls on Boyer. Again, I'm not trying to dismiss the weaknesses Josh Boyer had. Eric, you look like you had something to say.
Yeah, I will say this is the one game, and I'm curious, I guess, to get everyone else's thoughts on this. Where during the game, this is where I feel like the Dolphins missed Brandon Jones' presence the most, because he was the guy that could have come in on a blitz and he would have gotten to Justin Fields at least once today. Just because he's probably their best blitzer in the secondary. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Brandon Jones was extremely missed because he's their best bet when it comes to these mobile quarterbacks at bringing them down.
And this is the other thing. Like, if you don't want to give Josh Boyer a pass on how he adjusted to Justin Fields, at least we need to give him a pass on this much. Josh Boyer has not been able to have a full decent secondary all season long. Byron Jones has not played all year. I'm really starting to believe he will not. I don't know. I'm thinking that the only reason he's not being put on straight up IR for the rest of the year is just because I think they're holding out hope that he'll be available for the playoffs or something.
It's hope. Yeah, it's hope at this point.
But at this point, yeah, I would. You better believe I'll take Byron Jones coming in week 13 or whatever instead of Keon Crossan or Cater Kohu on the boundary. Listen, the difference between the two is night and day. Like, I think I would rather have Byron Jones out there, at least in a playoff run, because at least then I know for sure, okay, here we go. Now we can maybe, just maybe, play the defense that we want to play and want to do all along. You can't tell me there's not a big difference. Cater Cole, like Keon Crossan is a special teams guy mostly. It was supposed to be Trill Williams as the reserve guy. It was supposed to be Nick Needham as the reserve guy. Now we're down to an undrafted rookie out of Texas and A&M Commerce and a special teams guy in Keon Crossan acting as your number 2 corners. That matters. And Xavier Howard, people saying that he got the bag and he became below average. Teams are not throwing the ball at Xavier Howard most of the time. The only time you throw the ball at Xavier Howard is if you can tell he obviously got beat. And of course it's going to look bad because otherwise you don't throw it in his direction. Why on earth would you test Xavier Howard when you have an undrafted rookie on the other end or a career special teams guy who is not necessarily your top option at cornerback? So Is the solution go talk Joe Hayden out of retirement? Not for me, it's not. You want to maybe talk to Sidney Jones? He just got released by the Seahawks. I don't know. Maybe he can offer something.
I think we do. We need a lot of. I think we need a little bit of help, veteran leadership wise, guys that have been here before. Because these guys, these special teamers, these young guys who really haven't been in the NFL for very long, it's missing. Like they're making a lot of mistakes, and Miami needs that veteran leadership. So I say do sign someone, honestly. The trade deadline has passed, but you got to sign someone that has some of that veteran leadership who could bring some of that knowledge, because there's a lot of uncertainty back there.
Well, I'm just going to go down the list here real quick just to really get this understood. So the top, at least according to NFLTradeRumors.co, this is basically where I go to look for guys who have not been signed. Kevin King from Green Bay, Malcolm Butler, who, by the way, I believe he actually had a workout with the Dolphins, and they did not sign him. Think about that. He worked out with them, and they did not sign him.
Yeah, I don't understand how he's any worse than Keon Crossan. I really
more
don't
expensive.
Understand.
Maybe he's more expensive, and it's possible that he really is just washed up, guys. Like, these guys are not going to be good forever. Richard Sherman's still technically a free agent. He's just doing commentator work now. I don't think he has any desire to come back at this point. You want Janoris Jenkins from Tennessee? What's his pay demands? There has to be a reason he's not being signed. Either he's washed up because other teams would have needed cornerback help. It's not just Miami. And At the Bridge is asking, didn't hear Noah Igbinogheni's name much. How many snaps did he play? Not enough to have Noah Igbinogheni's name called, although I did notice that he missed a tackle, which was once again doing Noah Igbinogheni things. I've had enough. I have had enough of this with Noah Igbinogheni. Congrats, kid. Enjoy your highlight play. It's literally the only one you're going to get your whole career.
We love the bully. We love the bully, Luis. Gonna bully him to another career interception. You know it.
It's like, at what point can you finally say bust? Seriously. People were putting the bust label on guys like Tua. They were putting the bust label on guys like Austin Jackson, which I'm still holding the jury out on him. I still think that there might be a label waiting for him.
Has he outlasted Charles Harris?
He outlasted Charles Harris in Detroit. Actually hasn't been too terrible. Go figure.
When Noah Igbinogheni gets released and signs with another team, he's going to turn into the next Darrelle Revis, though. Just kidding. No, that's not going to happen. But
I think some team may sign him and try to turn him into a safety, and then we'll see what happens. Because at least then he'll be able to use his athleticism for something other than trying to cover, which he cannot do. He really, really can't. He's a reactionary player. He cannot anticipate. He cannot do any of that stuff he's supposed to.
Yeah, to be fair, Noah's gone from like worst corner I've ever seen with my own two eyes to like just regular bad, which I guess is an improvement, right? Like I'm just saying, give him another 3 years, maybe he'll be average on some other team. He'll be somebody else's third or fourth best corner.
Yeah.
I don't think that's out of the question. Remember Dallas Thomas. That's my
I will never forget Dallas Thomas. I cannot forget Dallas Thomas.
And he ended up becoming a halfway decent NFL player.
Where? No, he didn't. Where?
I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Billy Turner.
Oh my God! I'm about to say, it's like Dallas Thomas. He got good. Where? In the CFL?
I'm thinking of Billy Turner. I apologize. No, but Billy Turner is who I'm thinking of there.
Sheesh.
No, but I mean, anytime you're splitting hairs between Keon Crossan and Noah Igbinogheni, your secondaries in serious problems. I have heard, I don't know if this is true or not. I saw a tweet from Omar Kelly about it, and I figured that maybe it would be a good thing to talk about here. He mentioned that Josh Allen looks like he injured his throwing arm, which could, add a wrinkle to the division race. The Dolphins are 6-3. They've got 2 at home against Cleveland and Houston. I know it doesn't feel great to project out and say, hey, they could still win the division right now, coming off of a win like this. But there's definitely a conversation to be had there.
And I'm going to go ahead and give an outro to Jacob. He's got to go and call it a day for already. But we're going to stick around here. And, well, if you get another opportunity to pop in before the show's over, feel free to. The invitation's always open.
Thanks, guys.
Alrighty. So let's start looking at some other issues that Miami's dealing with. Jason Sanders. I've kind of had enough of Jason Sanders. Not going to lie.
Yeah.
Like, ever since he's parted ways with Brent Grablichoff, Jason Sanders has not been the same kicker. I don't know why they parted ways. I was not given any details, and that's understandable. But they parted ways, and ever since then, Jason Sanders has not been a very good kicker. He hasn't. He got paid, parted ways with his kicking coach, and now he looks like a bottom of the barrel kicker. You cannot be missing. Like, I'm sorry that it's windy. Like, we want to talk about, Tua can't miss those throws. Okay, how about Jason Sanders cannot miss less than extra point distance field goals? You can't do that. And is it any wonder then why Mike McDaniel elects to go for it on 4th and 1, 4th and 5, et cetera, et cetera? Because you don't trust your kicker. If you can't trust your kicker to make even the most routine field goals, you have a problem. And not only that, he's being paid. He's being paid like a top kicker. Are you serious right now? That's what I'm looking at. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this up because it's kind of bothering me right now because I need to know exactly how much money he's making in 2023 and see if maybe we can move on from him somewhere down the line here. Let me see. Where is he on this list? Is he even on this list? Is his contract over? Let me see something here. I don't see him. This is interesting. I'm going to have to do Control F. Okay, so this year he be cut even this much. Let me see here. Okay, I found him. So if we tried to cut him before June 1st, he would only save us $95,000 and he would count against $3.6 million against the cap. However, if we cut him afterwards, oh no, it's still bad. Only $895,000 in saves. No, we're kind of stuck with Jason Sanders, guys.
I mean, if you're saving $900,000, that's not much. That's not.
But
much,
you're creating $3 million against in dead cap. So I'm like, nah, it's not worth it. You're kind of stuck with him.
Yeah, this is our kicker. And this is a different game today. If not only he makes that kick, but they felt confident in him otherwise to make other kicks. Of course, that penalty toward the end was a big reason how this game got decided once it got down to it. But that's not even a factor if Jason Sanders makes the kick and they feel like they can just kick from there instead of going for it twice within the Bears territory to try and extend the lead. And this is just the poison pill we have is hope that he snaps out of it and tries to be a consistent kicker again. Or if we just kind of have to bite the bullet and say, all right, we're going to go for it on a lot more 4th downs for the foreseeable future.
I think we're going to end up going for it a lot. And I still have more faith in Tua on 4th down than I do in Jason Sanders to make a field goal at this point, in spite of everything that we saw here. Yes, bad throws. No denying it. No denying it whatsoever. I still trust Tua on 4th down more than I trust Jason Sanders on field goals.
So, we've talked about Jason Sanders. We've talked about the defense. We've talked about Tua. There is one other issue, I think, in this game that kind of reared its head again, and it's Mike McDaniel himself. The first half, the clock management at the end of the first half was really bad, and Tua missed the throw on 3rd and 11, but I thought that the offensive creativity just went way out the window on the first 2 plays of that drive where you're just running the ball into the line. No, they ran the ball into the line on the first play, and then they pitched it out to Mostert. Everybody in the stadium knew they were going to run the football. Where did the aggressiveness go? Where was the play action on 2nd down, quick throw? I didn't like the way the game was handled at the end, and I didn't like the way that the end of the first half was handled, clock management wise.
And I think that's a legitimate criticism, and that's something he's just going to have to learn as time goes on. Again, for all intents and purposes, Mike McDaniel is still the best head coach that we've had in a long time. And I know that doesn't say anything considering like we're trying to criticize him and I'm here trying to defend him. But if the worst thing about your head coach is his clock management, that's something that you can learn. That's something that you can get better at. You cannot teach your coach. Your coach cannot learn how to make a better offense. Your coach cannot learn how to construct a better defense. Like, your philosophy is what it is, right? Like, kind of, even though he's not very old, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. This is just what Mike McDaniel is. He's able to coach offense really well. He seems to really have this locker room functioning, and I can't wait to see the locker room meeting after it's all over, because the Dolphins always do stuff like that. I'm really happy with it, and I love to see it. So if the worst thing about him is clock management, I can live with that. Now the question becomes, how long before he starts learning to handle this stuff better? Or is this clock management just his personal philosophy, trying to wind the clock down as soon as physically possible just to get, at the very last moment, try to score as the clock's ticking down so the defense doesn't have to come back out to the field? Like, is he doing this on purpose? If he is, then don't expect him to change, because he's doing it the way he wants to do it. If this is a mistake and he's just trying and he has to feel his way through learning process, then sure, why not? But that's something that we would have to ask Mike McDaniel ourselves and be like, hey, coach, when you did this, what was going through your mind? What was your thought process in making that decision? So if somebody wants to ask that question, I'd love to hear what the answer is. But something tells me that this clock management is not an accident. That's just my personal instinct about it.
Well, if he's going to keep doing it this way, he's going to have to come and have a discussion with my neighbors, because the last couple of times this has happened, I have just been standing up, screaming 4 feet away from the TV. Call a timeout, spike the ball, something, anything. The fact that the play clock's getting down to 10 seconds is going to be the death of me. And I'm pretty sure this is the second time that while it's been running out like that, there's been a penalty at the end of that. So that just seems like confusion to me and a bit of mismanagement, which, again, he's a brilliant guy. He's an unbelievable architect of an offense and play caller and so forth. And we see how he just drains teams when he gets toward the end of games. But I think he can learn this. I think he can get better at this. But the Dolphins are really lucky that it hasn't burned them yet, because that is absolutely something that can get you down the road when you're splitting hairs like this with how many injuries the defense has and so forth. That I don't see many blowouts left on the Dolphins roster. I don't think the Dolphins are going to get blown out by anyone. So that means a lot of close games where it can come down to things like this, extra possessions, scoring while you're getting down there. So I'd like to see that fixed in a hurry, because you can only play with fire so much if you're him.
Yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. My problem isn't necessarily even that he's letting the clock run down in that situation. It's if you're going to use up that much clock, how do you have 12 guys in the formation if you're going to use up that much clock? If you're taking your time and you're going to do it slowly, do it right. This isn't a scramble situation where you've got bodies running in and out, and you've got a bunch of guys running around like chickens with their heads cut off. That's not what was happening there. So I just think that needs to be cleaned up. And ultimately I do think it will be. I don't think it's the end of the world. As for them playing in a lot of one possession games down the stretch, I would like to see them win comfortably the next 2 weeks. I think they can.
But I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I think Cleveland's a much better matchup on paper.
We said that about the Lions. We said this about the Bears. We said this.
Yeah, but you're back home.
Browns.
You're back home these 2 weeks. The Bears, for as much as we want to talk about the Dolphins getting gashed on the run, it wasn't David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert who had been averaging nearly 200 yards a game combined recently. It was Justin Fields. And I know Nick Chubb is a different animal when it comes to that, but the Dolphins defend running backs pretty well. And if as far as the Browns go, if you can defend their Nick Chubb, you can stop their offense. So I would like to see them the defense get right this weekend and next week and the following week off of the bye as well, because the Texans, they're the same story. If you can stop Dameon Pierce, you can stop their offense. And the Dolphins, that's the one good thing that the defense does consistently is they defend running backs well. So I do have hopes that the defense kind of rights the ship a little bit over the next 2 games.
I hope so too, because I don't think my heart can take this. I was legitimately about to throw up with some of the stuff that I was watching here. It's like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. The stress level is too high. Like, our offense has scored 30 points, over 30 points in the past 2 games. We should not be down to the wire. We really, really shouldn't. And I fully agree that Josh Boyer has some questions to answer. Don't misunderstand me. Me giving credit to Justin Fields is not excusing Josh Boyer. Both things can be true, just like both things can be true regarding Tua made mistakes and also Tua had an elite performance. Amazing quarterbacks have bad games, just like not so amazing quarterbacks have ridiculously record-breaking games. I still remember when Thad Lewis absolutely wrecked the Miami Dolphins several years ago. And David Michelle pulling up the underthrows that are continuing. Again, underthrowing, like, if you're talking about the fact that Tua doesn't hit his receivers in stride, hitting Tyreek Hill in stride is very difficult to do, number one. Number two, go back and look at all the highlights of Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill had to come back on a ton of those passes. A ton! That's just how the game is played with him. So, now if you want to argue, again, I'm going to come back to this. Yes, that underthrow to Jalen Waddle was an underthrow, but it wasn't an underthrow because he had no arm strength. It was an underthrow because Tua was going for a touch pass instead of launching it down the field, which is arguably what he should have done. That's just a decision that he made. That was not because his arm couldn't handle it.
I will counter, and I will say this as far as the long ball goes. On the drive that ended on 4th down with the pass to Smythe, Jalen Waddle drew a pass interference call because he jumped way too early on a deep ball that would have been there had he kept running. That was a touchdown if he just keeps running through the ball. Like, let's be honest about that. That ball was on the money. So I do think that there's a little bit of both to it. I don't think it was Tua just doesn't have the arm to complete the pass on the last underthrow. It was just like you said. The timing wasn't there. He mistimed it really more than anything. So I'm not super concerned with it.
I mean, I have no reason to believe that Tua is not having a fantastic season. Like, okay, Tua makes some underthrows. Is that the worst thing we can say about him at this point? If that is, then I'll take it. Your receivers are there to make plays. This shouldn't have to be, again, it should not always have to be picture perfect, pinpoint, super accuracy that you can hit a fly off of a poop wagon. Like, you need to be able to trust your guys to make plays. You need to be able to make plays. And they did today. That's why they have 35 points. And give credit to Jalen Phillips, by the way, and Andrew Van Ginkel. That punt, that Jalen Phillips got to the punter so fast, he wasn't even blocking it with his hands. He blocked it with his chest. And then Van Ginkel, just like the few years ago back, comes in, swipes it, and into the end zone he runs. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thing of beauty. So give credit to special teams for that. Defense, no. Got to fix it. All right. So before we wrap things up here, I want to go ahead and talk about what's going on next week. Yeah, going back home. Hallelujah. Thank goodness we're back in good territory. Going back to Hard Rock Stadium where the sun will do our bidding. Cleveland Browns. One more week of Jacoby Brissett before the Browns get their extremely high-paid, questionable quarterback back. So with that said, Eric, you don't seem all that concerned about Cleveland. Why is it that I feel like I should be?
Because the Dolphins have hurt you. Is the easiest answer.
They haven't hurt you, Eric. Are you?
Absolutely. My heart is terrified, but my head says that the Dolphins should win that one comfortably.
Right, but that's what I felt about the last 2 games too. My heart is terrified and my head is saying no big deal. And so far, my heart has been right both times.
Absolutely. No, when you're looking at but it's just looking at the rosters and what Cleveland does well, and contrasting it with Miami. I just, like I said, I think Miami's going to be able to contain Nick Chubb as much as he can be contained. And then from there, I mean, if they're not running the ball effectively, I'm not afraid of Jacoby Brissett.
I mean, that's a fair assessment. I'm not afraid of Jacoby Brissett either. He doesn't scare me. But then again, there have been a lot of quarterbacks so far that I said that you don't scare me, and then they end up kicking our tails. So I guess that's my issue. Is I don't think Jacoby Brissett's going to beat us. Don't misunderstand. I think Miami will win next week, and I will say so because actually we're going to be shifting up Pulse of Vince Nation to tomorrow because we don't want to get in the way of other things happening in the country that might take up our audience time. Sorry, this is an analytics thing, nothing else. I personally just feel like if Miami is going to win the game next week, I would like to believe that Tua does not have to be perfect again. Like, you should not have to have your quarterback be perfect in order to come up with wins. If that is required for your team to come out with victory, there's a big issue. Now, here's a question for you, and I'm going to go ahead and pitch this to you. Let's say you fire Josh Boyer, right? You fire Josh Boyer. Who do you go look for? Who's your defensive coordinator at that point? Who are you looking at as a potential? Do you look to promote someone like an Austin Clark, the defensive line coach? I don't know. Is he any good? I have no idea. Do you look to see if maybe Sam Madison can get promoted? Do you think Sam can handle a whole defense? I don't know. Or do you try to see and look in Mike McDaniel's history and see what other kind of connections there are?
If you fire Boyer, you have to go outside because the window that you're looking in, and the Dolphins have established with the Chubb trade what sort of window they're looking in. That's the Tua is our guy, and we're going to try to win by surrounding him while he's on this rookie deal. If you're doing that, I think you have to look at coaches the same way, that you're not going to supplant Boyer with a first-time play caller and say, I think he should be good at this. You have to go and try and find a guy who's done it, who's called plays, who's called defenses, and see if those styles fit, see if that coaching style also fits the locker room and the players and so forth. And so I think you'd have to go out and get someone established. But the question is, who do you want to go get who is established and who would come and who would be a part of it? Obviously, Vic Fangio is going to be the guy that everyone goes to right off the bat. But who knows how that is in terms of a pairing, but because he's an interesting individual. But I think
he's currently a defensive consultant for the Philadelphia Eagles. Would he come to take a coordinator role with Miami?
I have to think so. I don't think anyone's banging down that door for a head coach after what happened in Denver, even though we're seeing Denver's not exactly an ace in the hole for this league. But, I don't think those calls for head coach are coming. Now, whether or not he realizes that may be a different thing entirely.
Yeah, I mean, as far as if you're going, to look for a new defensive coordinator, I would look to teams that are kind of built similarly for what the Dolphins want to do. And so it would probably bring me back towards San Francisco again, where San Francisco's got a bunch of defensive linemen that they can consistently sub in and out and get pressure with their 4-down linemen. And I imagine that, especially after the Chubb trade, that's kind of what the Dolphins want to do. So I would probably be looking to one of their position coaches.
I don't know. It's hard to say because when you're looking for proven coaching, it's not as easy to find because you're either looking at a retread, which is the derogatory term used for coaches that have to be bounced around, or you're looking for a guy that you don't know for sure if he's any good. One way or another, you're taking a chance. But I personally just look at the situation as a whole. Miami is now sitting at 6-3. We're second place in the division. We're 2-1 in the division. We only lost to the Jets. And we're 1 game behind Buffalo. Not that you really want to say it, but Dolphins could still potentially win this division. They really, really could. It's just that, again, we always make the argument, right, that the quarterback is the most important position on the field at any given moment, and that teams go to the playoff or fail based on their quarterback. You can make some people, I won't make the argument because I still think he is better, but you could make the argument that Tua and Josh Allen are in the same wheelhouse right about now. Like, they're right there. Josh Allen, I still think, is better than Tua for a multitude of reasons. He's faster, he's stronger, he's got more of an arm. But Tua's creeping up on him. Like, I can't, other than the fact that, again, his arm is not as strong as Josh Allen's. What kind of things does Tua have left to prove that he is a potentially elite quarterback in this league right now? I keep hearing things about how he's got to get the deep ball going. The deep ball is going. It's not a question of whether he can throw the deep ball. The question, what you're really looking for is, you want Tua to throw it so far that it's just going to land right in his breadbasket and he can run into the end zone for a perfect score. That doesn't happen all the time. That really doesn't happen all the time. And yes, Tua's arm is average. Tua's arm is average. It's not a cannon. It's never going to be a cannon. But that hasn't stopped them from scoring touchdowns. It hasn't. They've been scoring. They've been moving the ball pretty darn easily. And when they do throw it deep, either it gets caught or most of the time anyway, there's like a pass interference call or something. Because that's how it goes. That's how this league goes. We can, at this point, if you're saying his deep ball sucks, I just feel like we're nitpicking. Because we're nitpicking semantics. This offense moves. This offense scores. We just put up 35 points. Regardless of what the defense is and who the defense is, 35 points is not easy to do. That's not something that happens every day. And we get, and just to one more time, I'm going to reply to Parrish Stevens. We get pressure. Pressure and sacks are two different stats. Pressure and sacks are two different stats. We've gotten sacks very rarely. Melvin Ingram finally got him. We were pressuring Justin Fields all day. Jalen Phillips was right there all day. Bradley Chubb was right there all day. He just kept getting away. Pressure is not about pressure is just about getting to the quarterback. The sacks are the things that we're not getting. Hopefully with time that'll happen. Anyway, any final thoughts before we call it a show?
I say going forward, of course, I'm all in on finding some veteran corner on a flyer, get somebody to come in and, for the love of God, give us a warm body. But the Dolphins, sandwiching around that bye, have to get out of there 8-3. The Browns and Jacoby Brissett, and then the Texans, who the other night when the Texans in primetime, I just kept saying to myself, oh, he's a Texan? Oh, yeah, he's a Texan. You got to be 8-3 after that game because December is, strangely enough, the Packers may be the least intimidating game on that December slate so far, but it gets real tough real quick as you get in there, and wins will be a bit harder to come by. We talked about trying to be 2-2 through the first 4 of this season. You got to be 8-3 going into that because it's going to be a bit of a mixed bag. But I think the Dolphins will be there, and I think they may get there comfortably in at least one of those 2 games. Help us, God.
Any final thoughts, Eric?
Yeah, no. It's a shame that we're talking about 3 throws by Tua, when realistically, this is one of the best stretches we've seen a Miami Dolphins quarterback play since the guy wearing 13. So, as far as that goes, there's consistency building there. Very happy with the way that the offense has performed for the most part, and get to 8-3.
Okay. We'll be back next week for more content. Pulse Fins Nation tomorrow at 7 p.m., not Tuesday. Tomorrow, we've already made the discussion with Ron, and we're going to do it tomorrow. Thank you all so much for joining us. Once again, go to prizepicks.com. Make sure you use the promo code 5. That's FIVE. They'll match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you first sign up using our promo code. It always, not only are you getting yourself a chance to win some big time monies, you'll also be helping out 5 Reasons Sports Network, because we get credit when you use our promo code. What can I say? That's what the whole point of a sponsor is. Help us out, guys. Help us keep giving you the best content in South Florida sports. Anywho, that's going to be it for us here. Once again, big thank you to Manny, who's in the background doing his thing. We always appreciate having him here as our producer. And for myself, Eric Wydicki, Michael Quirk, and of course, Jacob Michelle, who was here during the early portion of the show, I will go ahead and say thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you all next week.